If we say that getting marks in geography as an optional for civil services is not going to be too difficult a task, it won't be an exaggeration at all. And why is it that it won't be an exaggeration? This is largely because geography offers a scope for giving marks much more than any subject known. Not exactly that geography is my subject. I am from physics. Of course, it's a different matter that I have known geography also, but then I have appeared in the examination with physics, I have appeared in the examination with geology, nothing like geography at all. Of course, I appeared also with Sanskrit and psychology, and of course, that is the reason that I was not able to qualify for the examination with experimentation based on rumors. And of course, you shouldn't also be following that many number of rumors also. So, coming to that part, geography offers more scope than anything known to us. And why exactly is it going to be so? Is because of a variety of regions and variety of factors. The first is that geography offers the greatest amount of a variety with respect to the questions, with respect to the answers, with respect to the disciplines, with respect to anything you can imagine. So what variety means? How is it that you're going to get marks? Now that is related to your aptitude and that is related to your attitude. And how it is so? Supposing you are writing an answer on a cultural setting, maybe that you're not suited to that. Your answer will not be good. But then there is another topic, another question that has been asked from something like political geography. Now, with respect to political geography, you have a very well developed insight that whenever you have an insight, whenever you have interest in the topic, that is a different ball game altogether. It's the same thing in the first paper as well. Supposing you're writing an answer with respect to demography, you're writing an answer with respect to models and theories, and then somehow you don't go on to like it, and your aptitude is not suited to that. So what you can go on to do is that you can go on to pick up answers on physical geography instead. Now, you may not going to be getting that much number of marks in those sections, but then there is another section that will offer you that much amount of a scope for the purpose of taking it forward. And when we say that it offers that much amount of scope, it's largely because of the variety. You're not suited to one section, there's another section. You're not suited to that section, there's another section. And then you're not suited to one section, there is another section as well, still another section. And that's the beauty of the subject. So, geography offers more marks, more scope for getting marks. There is a second reason as well. The second reason is that geography is very contemporary. Anything that you go on to see, anything that you know, anything that you happen to have a cognizance of, anything that you can go to perceive, anything that you hear, anything with respect to any phenomena, whether it is tropical cyclone, whether it is going to be heat wave, or whether it is going to be some type of social discord, or whether it is going to be monsoons, or whether it is going to be earthquake, or whether it is going to be environmental pollution, anything, you are always in the process of revising the subject. You do not require to delve deep into it, maybe only with the help of those current affairs topic, because of its contemporary nature, you can go on to be getting these marks. And that is what is the advantage of it. You are always revising the topic, and you are revising the topic because the subject is contemporary in nature. The subject is a daily subject. It's a day-to-day subject. It's one of those type of subjects that you can think of, that you can dream of, that you can sleep with, that you can eat. Everywhere you are in some amount of geography. This is largely because you can you can go to have a breakup from your girlfriend. You can go to have a divorce from your wife. You can go to have a severance of some type of relationship with someone. But there is absolutely no way that you can go to divorce your environment around yourself. Be it physical environment, be it a be it cultural environment, be it economic environment, it is so contemporary, it is so striking that it keeps on striking you, and because it keeps on striking you, the advantage that you get here is the biggest advantage in this case is that you are revising it and you are always writing it. That not only offers your task to become lower, but also that you can incorporate a lot of examples in this case. That is what makes it very, very contemporary. And that is what is being looked for as well. For example, most of the cases of models and theories, you are being talked about as far as contemporary nature of the topic is going to be concerned. If you do not go on to insert a contemporary example, if you're not able to insert some type of an example that is associated with being completely day to day, on a day to day basis and a day to day life, then you are missing out on something in this case. And this offers it, and that's why it has an advantage. Now, all in all, when you are studying the topic, when you are presenting a topic, because you are going to be getting marks only in this manner, only when you are presenting a topic. So when you are discussing this topic, when you are presenting this topic, then that's the way that you go on to be getting marks out of it. That's going to be one component, one part associated with it. So what are the considerations that you have to take into account for the purpose of getting marks? Now, one of the best considerations is that in this case is while trying to answer anything is going to be the type of question. And when we are going to be talking about the type of question, you can imagine we are all in all concerned with a variety of aspects. For example, what exactly is the question? What exactly is the tail word? Tail word means whether it begins with discuss, whether it begins with elaborate, whether it begins with elucidate, whether it is going to be illustrate. Now you have to answer these questions only on that basis. Only on that basis. If you're answering something that is going to be discussed, and you are answering it for analysis, maybe to an extent it can go on. But if you are answering any question on analysis and then you comment on that, now this becomes fatal. And why are we going to be saying it so? It becomes fatal. It becomes fatal largely because you are not answering the question at all. So the first thing is understand the question. And in trying to understand the question, the most important consideration is the type of question. Now, incidentally, there is a complete 2 hour recording for that purpose with you, which you can go to take a look at how to answer questions. We are only touching the peripheral aspects here, but then in the same series, you can go on to have them. So type of question is going to be one of these aspects. You don't have to answer questions which are asking you to discuss, and you go on to comment something that is going to be asking you to analyze, and you start discussing it, something that is going to be elucidate, and you make it very complicated. So this is something that is generally going to be very, very absent in this case. That's one part, and that is actually a very, very significant part. The second part is how is it that you begin with any question? Beginning. Now, any accomplished examiner, any accomplished person will be able to know how is it that you are going to be beginning with the topic. And when we say that is how is it that you begin with the topic, it means that you have to begin the topic in a very different manner for present, for discuss, for elaborate, for elucidate, for analyze, for critically analyze, and the accomplished examiner will be able to know that whether you are answering that question which has a specific tail word or you are answering something different. So that is going to be beginning, and associated with beginning is also going to be the end. Both of them. Now, end means you can not go on to always end, like most of the students that I have seen. Thus we see, thus I see it, thus my girlfriend sees it, my children going to see it, my father sees it, my mother sees that this is what it is. Now, this is the most ugly form of conclusion one can imagine. Now, beginning with it is like beginning and end means that is where your impression counts, and your ultimate impression counts with end. because the examiner keeps on looking for it. And when he understands that you have concluded well, and conclusion means the conclusion must go on to follow the presentation that you have given. The conclusion must follow the logic that we have given. The conclusion must go on to follow the description that we have given. The conclusion must follow the process of coming to a conclusion. In this case is going to be concerned. And when we are going to be talking about the process of coming to a conclusion, that makes it very, very, very different. So that is beginning and the end of it. So analysis can be something like take the case of the Haldi Ghati war. So you can always go on to say that the purpose of the Muslim terrorists, I mean Mughals essentially, I mean that is how you go on to be denoting it right now, because it is now known, and that is the narrative that we have known. So all of their aim was to capture Mewar. Rana Pratap's aim was to free himself from it. So what happened was the Mughals captured Mewar, but because Rana Pratap fled, that's why they lost the war. But because they captured it, they won the war. And because Rana Pratap was able to flee and organize the Rajput chieftains thereafter, he was able to win the war. But because he lost Mewar, that's why he lost the war also. Now, that is one way of concluding it. And that is what it means. That means you are neither on this side nor on this side. Of course, as far as history is concerned, that is conclusive. The conclusive part is that the war was won by Rana Pratap. But unless that is completely incorporated in your text and incorporated in your history, and the history has been corrected, which has been completely distorted in the last 70 years by the jihadi education ministers of India, who were so-called education ministers, then till then you have to follow a balanced path. You have to follow a balancing trade in this case. So that is going to be the second component associated with it. The third is going to be the presentation. That's the third component. And as far as presentation is concerned, there are many ways by way of which you can go to present your answer. One of them is, of course, the language. Language means whether you are able to express it or not. That is simply language. Express it, that means you are able to write correct English or correct Hindi or not in this case. If you're not in a position to write correct English or correct Hindi, that really gives a very garish picture to the examiner. If you cannot go on to write in which medium that you have chosen to write, then how is it that you are ever going to be framing an impression in front of the examiner? So that is something that is going to be absolutely taken care of. And if you don't going to take care of, there is some type of a problem with it. That is going to be language. Expression means it can be a variety of type of expression. Like, we're going to use a very general example in this case. And expression will go on to mean a lot of things in this case. Supposing you have been asked about who is the best politician. Of course, this question is not never going to be asked. But then, just for the purpose of taking example, who is the best politician that India has? So some people will go on to have a hatred towards one of them. Some will go on to have a liking for one of them. And accordingly, they will go on to name it. That's not correct. Correct part is that is when you are trying to answer this question, first classify it. So the best politician as per development politician, intellectual politician, electoral politician, communal politician, caste politician, divisive politics, and you have example for all of them. Divisive politics, you have Mamta Banerjee and Akhilesh Yadav. Communal politics, you have Akhilesh Yadav in this case. Development politics, aura politics is going to be BJP. That is our Prime Minister Modi in this case. That is aura politics, development politics, and that is the basic reason that he has been able to have a global hold, a global influence in this case as well. Then pick up electoral politics. Anyone who goes on to go to the electorates for the purpose of getting himself or herself elected. Then pick up intellectual politics, someone like Dr. Shashi Tharoor. He writes an articles, and with the help of the articles, he is able to influence the mindset of the people. Now, that is expression. I'm going to give you another example of expression. There was a ship, and you must have known that was Titanic. It ultimately sank, of course, killing most of the people who were traveling by the ship. The conclusion in this case is going to be, ultimately, I'm using the conclusion, ultimately, who were the people who suffered most? Those who left this world, or those who survived to remember that tale for their whole life. Now, that is going to be an expression. And of course, expressions can be very, very mathematical. They can be very precise as well. But whenever you write and end your answer with the help of an expression that can be actually seen, that can be actually heard, and that can go to test the core of the examiner, that is wonderful. That is simply going to be wonderful. So, global warming. It's like one example can be global warming, a very general topic. That is, indeed, human beings are responsible for warming. But having known that, is it not that it is completely in their hand to curb it? That is going to be one of type of expression. So, of course, in this case, we have taken care of the fact that the English is going to be correct and grammatically it is going to be correct. So, presentation means language. Second is expression. The third is going to be innovations. Innovation in presenting this answer. And how many innovations can be there? Now, one of these innovation can be with the help of a diagram. You can go to make a diagram to show it, and don't force this diagram. Now, don't go to think that you have to force this diagram onto someone. So one is going to be diagram. The second part of it can go on to be a with flow chart. The third can be some illustration. The fourth can be the use of map. There can be so many of these types, and there are so many ways as well. For example, diagram can be associated with anything. For example, if you are making a diagram of polar vortex, then that's the way that you can go to make it. This is the whole of the earth, and that's how you have made this type of diagram, polar vortex, and then you're going to say that's how the air is going to be rising. That is going to be one form of it. Now you can go on to use this diagram for the purpose of explaining it completely. And when we say that is you can use it for the purpose of explaining it. That means only with the help of it. You may not go on to need to write anything at all in this case. That is going to be one. Second is you can go on to prepare certain type of a flow chart. And flow chart means that is let's say there is going to be warming of Atlantic warming. This will lead to Greenland melting. This will lead to a spread of cold water. This will lead to two things. First is albedo. Second is the flow of water. That will go on to lead to disruption of thermohaline circulation. This will lead to cooling. This will again lead to increased snow cover. Now come to this part, increased snow cover. So global warming will lead to a ice age. It may lead to ice age, global cooling as well. That is a distinct possibility. With the help of a flow chart, you can go on to show that. That is what we call it as innovative presentation in this case. That is going to be that's going to be another component associated with it. Then, of course, it is going to be knowledge. Now, imagine, knowledge is not only information. You should not go on to mislead yourself by thinking that since you are well informed and that is why it is knowledge. Take an example. Knowledge is about, we're going to give you a very simple example. You must have known that the lake with the highest salinity in the whole of the world is, make a guess. Now, I don't know whether you have made a guess or not, but then it is Don Juan Pond, Antarctic. In Antarctic, this is a lake that exists. Now, is it not that will go on to send some amount of curious question to you? The curious question is in Antarctic, is it not it freezes? No, it does not freeze at all. This is largely because at minus 40 degrees centigrade of a temperature, it is not able to freeze. That means the level of salinity in the lake, the salt content in this lake is going to be very, very, very high. And because the salt content is very high, and that is the reason that it is the lake with the highest salinity. And can you imagine it? It is only going to be a maximum 1 feet to 2 feet deep, but this never freezes at all. It does not. And that is knowledge. Information is that is it the highest lake or it is the coldest lake and so on. But then the ability to understand it, inserting certain amount of curiosity, coming to your own conclusion is what knowledge is going to be all about. The next part is attitude. Both of them, attitude as well as aptitude, both of them, it is going to be aptitude as well. Two of these components, attitude and aptitude. Aptitude and attitude are the easiest thing to obtain. It's not like knowledge. But of course, getting knowledge also requires an attitude. Unless you have an attitudinal basis, there is no way that you can gain knowledge. And even if you're going to be gaining knowledge, you cannot go on to be wise. Now, understand three things. It's a matter of attitude that you know the difference between three components. The first is, as we talked about, that is information. The second is knowledge. The third is wisdom. And the fourth is action. These are the four components. So it all depends on your attitude or aptitude. How is it that you're going to take it? How is it that you perceive it? And how is it that you are able to take it even forward as well? Now, we have talked about information and knowledge. And when you use knowledge for the purpose of making a decision, that is wisdom. And that is a right decision. Now, of course, with everything known to you, you can still go on to take a wrong decision, or your decisions can go on to become completely wrong. And that has happened. Countries have got devastated. Regions have got devastated. Governments have got devastated. It is easy to criticize that the decision is not correct. But then imagine a person like, let's say, the Prime Minister's office in India using no less than 1,200, 1,300 people to take a decision, because that is the type of feedback they obtain, then they process it, and then they take it further. Now, wisdom means that if any one of them are lacking in wisdom, they will go to interpret the facts in the manner that they like. Now, interpretation means that in the extreme of provocation, you do not go on to be using your subjectivity. That is one part. The second part is, in this case, when you are talking about attitude, then you are always going to be making it balanced. Balance, that means balanced conclusion, balanced answer, without any type of a prejudice towards anyone at all. That's the second component. The third is when you are talking about wisdom, you always have to show certain type of an action. Action, that means you're capable of taking an action. Remember, civil services examination is not only going to be a test of your knowledge or wisdom, knowledge or information base. It is going to be all about your administrative capabilities. And this is how exactly that you're going to be getting marks as well. That means when you show this type of attitude, only then you're going to be getting marks. Only then you are fit enough for that purpose. That means you can make it actionable. That means your thinking is solution oriented. Now that is far more significant. Your thinking is solution oriented. And when your thinking is going to be solution oriented, then you're not concerned too much about the problem. You're concerned only about how is it that certain things can go to weave around for the purpose of a such type of solution. So when we are going to be talking about getting marks, then all of these components are going to be part of it, along with, of course, presentation that we have talked about, diagrams, structure, understanding of the question, and whatnot. That's a basic. Now, I will suggest you to go for a similar series. That means it goes on to be in the same series on how to answer questions. There are going to be three components associated with it, how to answer questions, along with a good number of case studies on that count. So, this topic will go on to be remaining incomplete unless you actually have taken a look at how to answer those questions. Now, coming to the last part. Now, is it that with all of these things here, you will be able to get marks? The answer is yes, the answer is no as well. And when we say that the answer is going to be no, basically it means that you are not considering that something can go wrong as well. Now, and wrong can go in many places, in many ways as well. Now, when you are when you are making a diagram, it does not always it does not always mean that you have drawn the best of the diagram. It does not mean so. When you are structuring an answer, it does not always mean that you have structured it also very, very well. That means what are the cautions? How is it that you can go to make certain type of mistakes in those regions, and so on? Take the case of the first part that we are talking about, that is structure. Supposing you are talking about an answer and you want to structure it, the significance of the first word will go to become significant. It's like, do you think that the division of the states on linguistic basis has been correct? And supposing you write it by giving example that the division of the states on the basis of a linguistic basis, or on the basis of language, has not been good. You have already concluded that part. There is nothing left in the answer at all. This is something that you should be writing in the last. That is what is meant by the structure. Maybe it's going to be the second one. That is, if you're asked a question that global warming is as much politics as it is going to be economics. Do you agree with this statement? And you say that is yes, global warming is politics, it is economics as well, and there is nothing that cannot be agreed with. Now, this is again going to be a conclusion, not a topic of a introduction. That is one part. The structure in this case becomes significant. You have to build up this answer to come to a conclusion. So that's one thing that you should absolutely be doing. No. I repeat, no, and no. Second is, whenever you are going to be drawing diagrams, you must be very, very cautious. I'll just going to give you an example of how many things can go wrong when you are making a diagram. Take an example of something like a rising of the air. Whenever you say that is the air is going to be rising, then this is how a air parcel that starts rising. Supposing you have made it so, then you can go on to show it. Of course, this is the way that the air is rising. This is the way, this is the way, this is the way. But in case you go on to make such type of symbols within the diagram, that makes it so easy. Now, do you find anything wrong with it? Absolutely wrong. It should have been this should have been smaller, and all these should have become bigger, and bigger. That's a blunder, not only a mistake. It's a blunder. That's one example. So when you go to make such type of blunders, you expose yourself completely in front of the examiner. Pick up the second part. Supposing you are you are making a diagram of a tropical cyclone, and that's how you have made it. Supposing you are making a diagram of it, and that is going to be the eye of the cyclone. This is going to be the eye wall. That's going to be the convective band or the spiral band that we call it. This is the annular zone. This is outer convective band, and so on. Now you have made a diagram, and you will go on to show that the air is rising in this case. That's not correct. This is the way that the air is going to be rising. The air will not go on to rise vertically in this case at all. It's not possible. That is what will go to differentiate your answer from the rest of them. Here as well, you are going to be saying the same thing. That's how the air is going to be rising. This is the way that the air is going to be rising in this case, not exactly in the form of a straight line. Now, even if you're going to make it a straight line, the examiner may be a bit careless to understand that and may go to pass you. But when you make it sure that your answer is qualitatively very, very, very good. So the issue with diagrams is that when your diagram is going to be correct, it's very, very good. But when it's wrong, you show it. There can be another of this diagram. Now we are picking up something like a subduction zone. Now understand it. This is when you have labeled the diagram. This is continental crust. This is the oceanic crust. This is how one of these plates is bending. That you call it by the name of subduction zone, and so on. Now understand this part. That is here. There is the topmost level of both of them is going to be the same, and you will have to make a sea level as well, right? Sea level as well in this case. You have written sea level here as well. Now, unless you have not written sea level, it's not going to be correct at all. Then you have to label these diagrams in such a manner. Only when you label it, it is going to be correct. The mistake that good number of students will go to make it, they'll go to make it in such a manner. This is how they will go to make it. Now, how is it that subduction can go on to be higher? How is it going to be? Now, that means, of course, this is something we'll understand it much better, much better, much better in the subsequent sections. But that is going to be a part, necessary part associated with it. And that's the basic reason why good number of students are not able to qualify despite the fact that they make some very, very good diagrams. Good in the sense that is they try to make it, but then that is laced with millions of faults and mistakes as well in this case. So that is something that you have to be cautious of. So, and not only that part, that is maybe some of these facts which you're going to be considering that is controversial. Why to put it there at all? Maybe some of these viewpoints that you are finding it a bit controversial. Why to put it at all? And even if you're going to put it, it must go on to be laced with a very, very, very good language. A language that is going to be involving, a language that is going to be inviting. So the cautions that you have to take into account is you have to understand that the answer is not going to be about information. You have to be with the topic. You have to answer the question properly. You have to make good drawings in this case, and that is correct drawings. You have to structure it very well. You have to have a composition as well, and your conclusion should not be very different from your description, and description must portray your conclusion. If it is not doing it so, something is wrong in this region. These are some of the cardinal points, very short points, which you require to know for the purpose of getting marks in geography. Now, it will be always advisable that you must study how to answer questions which is in the same series, and it has a different recording as well.
To have more such discussions and analysis, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for notifications on our upcoming videos.